You know how it is. We make these huge New Year's resolutions and they just crash and burn by February. We get this idea in our heads that real change has to be this massive, heroic effort. But what if that's all wrong? What if the real secret to a stronger, calmer mind isn't about giant leaps, but about tiny, almost invisible steps? Well, today we're diving into some powerful habits from Japan that can totally reshape your mental strength from the inside out. And that right there, that's the core of everything we're about to talk about. So forget the grand, dramatic gestures. True, lasting change actually comes from these small, consistent actions that just add up. It's a principle that Japanese culture has perfected over centuries, and the psychology behind it is so powerful it can literally rewire your brain for more discipline and calm. So why do we get stuck so often? It almost always starts with this idea, the myth of big change. We set these enormous, intimidating goals for ourselves, right? Like, I'm going to meditate for an hour every single day, or I'm going to completely change my diet overnight. We're basically setting ourselves up to fail from the get-go. And here's the psychological trap. When a goal feels way too big, our brain looks at it like a mountain it just can't climb. And what does it do? It hits the emergency brake. And the result is always the same. We procrastinate, we feel totally overwhelmed, and then eventually we just give up. It's actually a self-preservation instinct, but it's one that keeps us from ever moving forward. So what's the alternative to all this? Instead of trying to leap across a giant canyon in a single bound, what if we just took one small step every single day? This, my friends, is the power of the 1%. This visual really shows the two paths, doesn't it? On the left, you've got that all-or-nothing sprint that, let's be honest, almost always leads to burnout. But on the right, that's the smarter way, the more sustainable way. Just aim to be 1% better. That's it. It's small enough that it doesn't feel scary, which is what keeps you motivated and in the game for the long haul. And this whole philosophy has a name, Kaizen. It's a really powerful concept that actually comes from Japanese industry. They used it to improve manufacturing processes, but it applies perfectly to our own personal growth. The focus isn't on some huge, far-off goal. It's all about the daily process of making these tiny, consistent improvements. And here's why this works on a brain chemistry level. Instead of that huge dopamine spike and then the inevitable crash you get from chasing a massive goal, Kaizen gives you this steady, low-level drip of dopamine with every single small win. That's what keeps you motivated. It keeps you engaged, and it never triggers that fight-or-flight threat response in your brain. Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we apply this whole philosophy to our lives? Let's get practical. We're going to stock up your mental toolkit with some simple, powerful habits you can start using literally today. We're going to unpack 4 incredibly simple yet profound practices that all flow from that Kaizen mindset. We've got the power of observation, the mental decluttering of Danshari, the mindful eating principle of Harahachi-bu, and the amazing emotional reset of forest bathing. First up, the power of observation. Now, this one sounds so simple, it's easy to overlook. In a world that is constantly rewarding quick takes and fast reactions, this habit is all about creating a deliberate pause. It's a simple practice of taking a breath, a moment to really see, listen, and understand a situation before you jump in. And the payoff for this is huge. That simple pause literally builds a mental muscle called cognitive restraint, which is just a fancy way of saying it's the ability to think before you act. You start shifting from a knee-jerk reaction to a thoughtful response. And over time, this leads to way better decisions, stronger relationships, and frankly, a lot less regret. Next up, we have Danshari. And listen, this goes so far beyond just tidying up your desk. It's a principle built on the really deep connection between our external environments and our internal mental state. The idea couldn't be simpler. A cluttered space leads to a cluttered mind. And there's actual science to back this up. It's not just a feeling. Studies have shown that physical clutter directly increases cortisol, which is our body's primary stress hormone. The takeaway here is crystal clear. Clearing your physical space has a direct, measurable effect on lowering your stress levels. So, mentally, what's happening? Well, you're reducing what's called cognitive overload. Every single object in your field of vision is a little piece of data your brain has to process. By clearing out all that unnecessary stuff, you are literally freeing up your working memory. You're giving your mind more room to breathe, to focus, to think, and to create. All right, our third tool is an absolute game changer for your energy and self-awareness, hara hachibu. It's an ancient practice that comes from Okinawa, which is one of the world's longevity hotspots, and the rule is incredibly straightforward. Stop eating when you feel about 80% full. And the key is that number, 80%. Not 100%, not stuffed. See, it takes about 20 minutes for your stomach to actually send the signal to your brain that it's full. So this 80% rule creates this perfect natural buffer, preventing you from overeating and avoiding that dreaded post-meal energy crash we all know so well. But the real mental benefit here is that you start to develop what scientists call interoceptive awareness. It's the skill of actually listening to your body's subtle signals. Practicing this doesn't just stabilize your energy levels, it trains you to be more in tune with yourself, which reduces so much long-term stress on your entire system. And finally, our fourth tool, Shinrin Yoku, or as it's often called, forest bathing. And no, don't worry, it doesn't involve any soap or water. It's simply the act of being in nature and connecting with it through all of your senses. This isn't about hiking or getting exercise. It's about slowing way down and just walking with no destination in mind. And you know what the best part is? You don't need to block off your whole day for this. Research shows that as little as 10 minutes is enough to start feeling the really profound benefits of this practice. It's honestly one of the most accessible and powerful mental health tools we have. So what's happening in your brain and body during those 10 minutes is pretty incredible. Spending time in nature activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your body's rest and digest mode. It actively lowers stress hormones like cortisol and completely resets your emotional baseline, leaving you feeling so much calmer and clearer. So there we have it. This amazing toolkit, the philosophy of Kaizen and 1% progress, the positive observation, the clarity of Danshari, the balance of hara hachibu, and the calm of forest bathing. Now, that might sound like a lot, but remember the main idea. Don't try to do it all at once. Just pick one. Start with your very first tiny step. If you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. You do not need a massive life overhaul to build real mental strength. You just need to commit to one small, positive change, and then repeat it. That's the whole secret. The smallest habits, when they're compounded over time, are the things that quietly create the most powerful transformations.
So I'm going to leave you with this question, not what will you do next year or next month or even next week? What is the one tiny 1% change you can make today? Are you going to take 10 minutes to just walk outside? Are you going to pause before you speak in your next conversation? Just pick one. Start there, because that is where real change actually begins.